Welcome back to Bartelle's Money Talk. Today we'll be sitting down with a business consultant who specializes in the success of women entrepreneurs. You will learn if you are actually ready to launch your business, the mindset that will affect the growth of your business, as well as common financial mistakes that women entrepreneurs make. If you are actually ready to start your entrepreneur journey, join me in this conversation. Well, Lawana, I know for sure that your ultimate goal is to empower female entrepreneurs. And you do this by providing financial education, and you also do this with consulting. But I
Yes.
know with your experience that you have seen how a woman's mindset can affect their financial independence. So can we talk a little bit about how a woman's mindset can affect them when they want to go into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so what's interesting, I think, is that when we talk about money specifically, that in America, we don't really talk about money in general. So we don't talk about it with our friends, we don't talk about it with our families. It is just like a taboo topic. And it's even more so with women. Women actually talk about money less than men do. They talk about their dreams around financial goals less, and within their families, they are talked to less about money. So parents talk to girls less about money than they do with boys. So all of that starts to feed into not only how we think about spending money and saving money, but how we think about earning money. And many women go into companies that are low barrier to entry, like so coaching and that kind of stuff, but they tend to be lower revenue generating. They tend to be businesses that are harder to get external funding for because you don't have assets like equipment or inventory. And so it just kind of continues to perpetuate, right? And then women often don't charge enough for their services.
Wow.
Yep. And so that's one that I kind of have to battle a lot, is charging what you're worth and not doing favors. Actually, taking money for what your value is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Based on what you're saying, can you tell the audience your qualifications? Like, how do you know this?
So my name is Whitmore. I am a business strategist and accredited small business consultant. I'm also a certified financial education instructor, and a professor of entrepreneurship at Metropolitan State University, and a doctoral student studying the effects of personality on the success of women entrepreneurs. So,
Wow. And so, like, with all that experience and education,
Mm.
do you have an idea of why women are this way with money? Like, based on what you're
yeah,
saying, we don't want to charge, we want to do a favor.
yeah. So I think there's this kind of natural desire to take care of and nurture, right? So there's that. Um, and then going back to the messages that we heard or didn't hear about money as girls and families, all of that feeds into why we spend or save the way we do. So even if, and this is true for everyone, not just women, if you heard in your family money doesn't grow on trees all the time, right? So if you heard that affects how you think about money, and people don't make those connections. It's not just about what was said, but it's also about what isn't said or what you overheard, right? Even if it wasn't said to you, you probably heard your parents talking about money at some point in time, talking about it, arguing about it, whatever it might be. And then for folks that go off to college, that's often the first time they are confronted with money management on their own. And they are confronted by getting a lot of different credit card applications in the mail, unsolicited. And then I'm just like, and I'm telling you my story right now, right? Meaning I started college. I started college in 1989. I got 5 credit card applications. I charged them all up because it was free money, because no one talked to me about what credit is, how it works, how you have to pay it back more than what you charged to begin with. Like no one talked to me about that stuff. And so I had to learn it the hard way. And I'm old enough, I'm in my 50s. So I'm old enough to remember when we used to learn how to budget and write a check. And that's the bare minimum in school. They don't teach any of that in school anymore.
No.
And so it's an interesting place where we have the lack of education around how money works. We have the lack of practice. We have lack of role models. We have all of this stuff that just kind of keeps, kind of piling on top of it, on top of each other, and results in people living paycheck to paycheck. So,
yeah. That's powerful there, because you're talking about paycheck to paycheck. Now, if you look at the society right now and with the finances, could you talk a little bit about that paycheck to paycheck mentality?
Yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah. And what's interesting is that I think a lot of people assume that it's just lower income folks, and that's not the case. The majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and here's where this is really problematic, and in just like current state. Meaning, if I'm living paycheck to paycheck and something happens, I get in a car accident, I have to go to the hospital, I have an unexpected bill of any kind, I don't have the free cash to take care of that problem if I'm living paycheck to paycheck. So then chances are I'm going to put that emergency on a credit card. And then I'll end, and because I don't have the cash, I'm not paying that credit card off. Credit card rates right now, interest rates are like 27%.
Yes.
And so if I am paying 27% interest on what I purchased in an emergency, remember, this is an emergency that I didn't have the cash to pay for, right? And now I've got to somehow come up with the cash to pay for this. I don't have it, which means I'm probably paying minimum payments. Yes. And if you go to any credit card calculator to understand what minimum payments are and what they look like, chances are you will never pay off that debt paying off your minimum payments. Yeah. So that's what it looks like in just right now. Over the long term, if you're living in paycheck to paycheck, that means you're not putting away the 10 to 15%, 10 to 20% that we really recommend that you put away for your future. And because many people haven't sat down and calculated how much am I going to need to have in my retirement, they don't even know what that number is. And so they haven't started saving towards it. And now when we break this out between men and women are earning less over their lifetimes than men.
That's true.
They're earning less over their lifetimes, and they live longer. So there's a problem right there, right? If I'm living longer than men, I have to have more money than a man has to have in order to pay for my stuff after I retire. So yeah, it's a whole big mess.
Oh, I love that. Look, but I love that explanation because it's a domino effect. If you have a credit card for an emergency,
you're done.
You are absolutely done. You're done.
You are done.
You're going to have to work really hard to dig yourself out, because I'm sure once you start using a credit card for an emergency, it's going to be a ripple effect. You might have a flat tire, or you might have to call out sick from work. And so if you have PTO time, you're not going to get paid for that day. No emergency. Exactly. You're back on your credit card again.
Yep. Exactly.
It's
yes.
Yeah. You just keep digging the hole. You keep digging the hole.
Right.
Get deeper and deeper, and you can't get out of it. And the next thing you know, it's like one of our friends said. It was Dakota saying we're in the $1 trillion of credit card debt in America. Wow.
Yep.
So I know you're a business strategist, right? And I know you focus on women. So. And I know when women get ready to launch a business or whatever the case may be, it takes revenue, right? It takes money.
It does.
Business, and it takes a lot of money sometimes, depending on what type of business you're going to launch. Yep. So what do you think, how can women overcome their financial challenges when they're trying to launch a business?
So one of the first things that they need to do is get their personal finances in order. When your personal finances are in order, all the other things become much easier. Meaning, when I think about having your personal finances in order, that means you have 3 to 6 months of savings in an emergency fund. You've got you're saving consistently between 10 and 20% of your income. And some of that is going into long-term investments, right? So when we think, that's what I think about as at the beginnings of really good financial management. Once you have that in place, then you can start a business with less worry. Meaning, so when I made the launch from my corporate career, where I worked for Target for almost 20 years, when I made that launch, I had a year's worth of expenses saved. And what that did for me was that gave me freedom to fail. And so when we don't have that money in the bank, that savings, we have reduced our choices in a lot of ways, because first of all, we don't have freedom to fail. We don't have freedom to take time to think, right, about our business and how to set it up. We're in a place where we have to go from this job to this company, and this company better take off, and it better take off right now. Otherwise, I'm in trouble because I have no cushion. So that's the first thing we've got to do. Second thing is we have to be kind of mindful of making that jump. But also, when your personal finances are in order, you have a better chance of getting money to help you start your business. Banks are more willing to give you loans. You have a better chance of going to business development organizations and getting money to help you start your business. Because before you start a business, and even in the early stages, your business credit is actually based on your personal credit because you don't have a business yet, right? And so they're looking at how you pay back your bills to see if your business will pay back its bills. Yeah.
Well, Luana, I had to tell you something, but like it just gave me chills. Listening to your story, I feel in my heart that you can help someone else.
I hope so.
Oh, you can. So we're going to veer off just a little bit because I think somebody needs to hear it. You worked at Target, corporate America, for 20 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you share with us what it took within you to make that leap? 20 years is a long time. That's security.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It is security. It is a guaranteed, guarantee to the point where as long as I'm employed, a guaranteed paycheck. But what it took was patience, time, and planning. And so when I decided that I wanted to work for myself, it wasn't at year 18. It was about a halfway or 3/4 of the way through that time. And then I took advantage of everything that Target was going to pay for. What I mean by that is Target paid for my graduate degree. They paid for my master's degree. Every certification that Target was giving in-house, I took the class. I was sitting there like, okay, let's teach me how to process flow. We're going to do it, right? And so I really used what Target had for its employees to my greatest advantage to set me up in the best way when I left. When I decided to leave, then I started to also use my position at Target to get me closer into nonprofit work, right? So that I could work with entrepreneurs and that kind of stuff. So the fact that I was doing what I was doing at Target got me my first consulting job outside of Target, outside of my business, working for a nonprofit, helping minority entrepreneurs get started. And so, but if I hadn't done the things that I was doing at Target, I wouldn't have been prepared for that role. So it was less about, I have to leave right now. And it was, how can I put myself in the best position so that when I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to go. And I don't have to go back if I don't want to.
Okay. So leading off that, if we have a woman that's been at a job that as long as you were at your job and she really wants to venture off and do something else, can you give her some advice?
Yeah, I think, first of all, really understand why it is that you want to do what you want to do. And what I mean by that is it, so I'm going to put this in hopefully the best way I can. When you understand who you are at your core, what your values are, decisions become easier. And actually, boundaries become easier. And what I tell people is that when you get boundaries, all things change. And some people are not going to like that you have boundaries, because when you have boundaries, that means you say no. And so one of the things that I really want people to do is understand who they are, do that self-reflective work to understand what it is that I value in life, so that when I do move into that next role, whether it's another job or my own business, that I'm doing things not only that are in alignment with who I am, but are delivering on what I think my values are. And at Next Femme Financial, which is my financial education company, that's one of the things that we do is we work with women so they understand what their value set is, so that they not only can spend in accordance with those values, meaning if I tell you that I value family experiences, and then I go spend, $1,000 on some shoes, we're not in alignment, right? So when you understand what your values are, you can spend in accordance with those values. You live and you work in accordance with those values. Yep. That's the first thing everybody has to do.
So, I have to ask this question because you said something that was kind of key when you said you got to find out your core, like your core. So you don't have to share everything, but just give one thing on how you identify your core. How would you go about identifying that?
Yeah. So one of the things that you can do is understand what makes you angry and what makes you happy. And so when our values are violated, we typically react with anger or frustration.
Yes.
That's one of those first clues is when. So let me give you a really good example. My sister's, one of her values is fairness. She wants everything to be fair. And when things are not fair, she gets angry. And it could be on TV, like watching the Olympics. Like she was like yelling at the screen because she's mad because things weren't fair. That ref did this, right? So when you really get inside your own head and really think about what makes me mad and what makes me really, really happy, when am I the most content? Those are really great ways to understand what your values are.
Nice.
That was well put. And so, ladies, if you're thinking about taking a leap of faith and leaving a job that you're comfortable in for the last 15 or 20 years, please take LaWanna's advice. Know your core and know your value. And even for myself, what are my boundaries? Boundaries are important. They help you know what you stand for and what you don't stand for.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
and go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, man.
No, you go ahead.
No. You gotta
yeah. And so like I said, when you get values, you end up being able to say no. And so one of the examples that I typically use is that I had someone come to me here in Minnesota, and they are thinking about starting a school for kids, and it was like a charter school, really great mission. It's going to help a lot of kids in the neighborhood. And I thought it was a great idea. I thought it could be super successful. And they asked me to be a part of it. And now most people would say, yes, this is a great thing. It's a great thing. But it's not part of my personal mission, right? So because I know who I am, and because I know that what I do is entrepreneurship, that wasn't me. And because I have boundaries, I was able to say no. And saying no to that left me open to be able to say yes to something that was in alignment with why I'm here on this planet. And so it's a tough decision to make. And when I say some people are not gonna like that you have boundaries, they're not gonna like it because you're gonna start saying no, and they're not gonna like it. But you have to be okay with that. Yeah.
And you know what? For women, that word no, Juana, that is such a hard word. It will even keep you late at night if you say no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
And it kind of feels like it's an oxymoron that boundaries give you freedom, but they do. When you have boundaries, you are then open and free to pursue what you're supposed to be pursuing, the reason that you're put on this planet. So,
and that's powerful because, and I think you said a key thing, and I want to ask this question: why do you think it's such a challenge to say no? I mean,
well, yeah, I think a lot of us, and particularly women, are taught to just be sweet and be nice and be accommodating and take care of and nurture. And so when you're in that mindset, you don't say no to someone when they need help or when they need something. You don't say no when someone comes to you and says, I want you to participate in this school for kids. You don't say no. Right. And so, but what I did tell them is that, you know what, I've got some other people that I think would be perfect, and this is their mission in life. I will connect you with those folks, but it's not my mission. Right. And I think for women, it just really is. We don't get permission to fail. We don't get permission to say no. We don't get permission to do anything but take care of other people. And then oftentimes at our own detriment. Right. So, yeah.
He was our own.
Yeah, it is. It's detrimental to a lot of women, especially Black women. I'm sorry, because our plates get so full and we have such a hard time saying no. And if you don't say no, you really will waste your life. You really won't know why you're put here on earth because you're saying yes to too many things that has absolutely nothing to do with your destiny.
Yep. And that same thing shows up in businesses. When you see entrepreneurs who are doing all the things, but they're not quite accomplishing anything. They're grasping all these straws. They've got 15 different quote unquote businesses. That they don't know what their business is. They don't know the vision, mission, and values of their company, and therefore they cannot say no to new opportunities that come along. You see this at nonprofits that change their mission to follow where the money is, right? Again, they're not really clear and anchored into what they are as an organization, so they're chasing the money, right? And so that principle is not only for self, it's for your company as well.
Yeah. So in other words, if you are sure about who you are and what your mission is, you don't have to chase the money. The money gonna chase you.
Yep.
And so talking about like with the school where somebody came to you with the school. So just say that this woman is listening to us and she's thinking about launching a business. And with all of your experience, can you discuss some of the pitfalls that she made as well as the
yes.
Give them a solution so that they don't have to experience that pitfall.
Yep. The first pitfall is that they create businesses that serve their own need. Meaning I have a problem and I'm going to start a business that solves my problem, but they haven't done the research to see who else has the problem, right? They create businesses that are really catering to what they want versus saying, I'm going to serve this group of people and I'm going to create what they want. And I'm going to do it over and over and over again. And let me give you an example. So there's this guy many years ago who he was, kind of in software development, and he went around to real estate companies and he asked them what their problems were. What are your problems? I'm going to go to all these real estate companies and real estate agents and ask them what their problems are. And then what he would do is go and take that list of problems. He would create software for them, bring it back and say, here's your solution. And they could not say no, because what he did was he met their need. He asked them what their problems were, what they wanted to gain. And he said, here's the solution to all of that. And people can't say no to that. But if you, what people do is they create a product or they create a service and then they start looking for customers, right? Instead of saying, here are the customers, what do they need? Let me serve that up, right? And so that's the primary pitfall in all of entrepreneurship.
Really, including women.
Yes.
So we businesses that's gonna help us.
You think somebody else need it. You think somebody else need what you need.
That's the biggest pitfall that you've seen in your
practice. Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. That is number one.
Okay, so we have want to start a business. Do you recommend that she go out and talk to people to see what people's problems are?
Yep, absolutely. There's actually a book called Talking to Humans that's really, really good to get people, entrepreneurs, in a space where they are doing human-centered design. So you're designing businesses and projects and programs around what humans want, and not only in the design thing, but also in the delivery. Yep. So Talking to Humans, it's a good book.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for sharing that about the book.
Yeah,
we like that. And so the one more thing that I would like for us to touch on: how can entrepreneurs increase their profitability?
Know your numbers. Know your numbers. And so this is a great little segue, right? Because if the research shows if you are good at managing your personal finances, you will be better at managing your business finances. And when you manage your business finances well, you will have stronger business. That is a proven connection between those three things. And so when you know what, most of the time when I work with entrepreneurs, it's like, so if we're talking about the product or the service or the brand and the colors and the logo and the website, everything is great. They're all happy. And then as soon as we get to the money part, that's when all like it's almost like screeching tires. No, I don't want to talk about that. And then so what I started to do was start asking entrepreneurs about their personal finances, because it was almost in 100% of the cases, they're struggling with both. And so you cannot make a business more profitable if you don't understand what your numbers are. If you don't understand how much you are spending on that slice of tomato, on that sandwich at your restaurant, you cannot make your business more profitable if you don't know that. And when I talk to folks and I explain, there's not, McDonald's is not operating the way they do because they want to. They operate the way they do because it's profitable, right? They understand that if I slice the tomatoes the same exact size every time, I know exactly how much it costs. And when I know how much it costs, I know how much I can charge. But if you don't know how much your stuff costs, you have no idea how much you should be charging. So yeah, you have to know your numbers.
Wow. So you said personal and business finances. So how do you bridge that gap between the two? How do you bridge the gap between your personal and your business finances?
Well, it's actually more natural than people think, because what happens is when you start with managing your personal finances well, you typically automatically bring those habits into your business. If you have a budget in your personal life, you will have a budget in your business because you just know. But if you don't know, if you don't have it, you have no basis of information to do that in your business. If you're not budgeting here, what's going to make you want to budget over there? It doesn't make any sense. So it's almost like a natural thing that you're just bringing those habits forward.
And so now, since you exposed that piece of it, because I'm thinking in my mind, like you see some failed businesses, and you have to wonder, did they have their personal finances in order? Because most of them that you talk to say, "Hey, my finances didn't work out," and they're out of business. So now that's like the gap between the two. So okay.
Yep.
How will a woman know if they're ready to take the leap or not? Because sometimes, Juana, they take the leap and they're not ready. Can you tell women, like help women to understand when they need to stay and keep doing what they're doing versus when they're okay and safe to make the leap?
Okay. So there are a couple of things. So first off, if you are on, again, some of this is knowing thyself. That's like my mantra: know thyself, know thyself. But if you don't want to do the things that I say are what true entrepreneurship is, and what I mean by that is there's the delivery of the thing, and then there's the running of the business. If you don't want to run the business, meaning manage the finances, do all of that stuff, right? Manage the operations. If you don't want to do that, then you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. And that's one of the first things that I want people to be really honest about, is that not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. That's not good or bad. It just is what it is, right? And so when you're honest, and let me give you a really great example of that. And this happens all the time with entrepreneurs that I encounter, is that they are they want to be clothing designers, or they want to do hair, or they want to start a restaurant because they love to cook, right? And what I say is that if you love to cook, if you love to do hair, if that's what your actual love is, you probably don't want to start the business, because as soon as you start a restaurant, you are going to be doing less of what you love and more of the running of the business, managing the money, managing the people, managing all that operations, right? You're going to get further and further away from the thing that you love and closer to this other stuff, right? And so if you're not into that other stuff, running a business is going to be super difficult. And you'll also find that, and oftentimes you have to do so much of the stuff in the beginning because it's a new business. You don't necessarily have the funds to hire the people that are going to do this stuff, right? So you have to have some love and some knowledge around that stuff. And I think you also have to kind of know yourself. If you're the kind of person who always needs someone to hold you accountable, if you don't have kind of the ability to take initiative on your own, if you aren't a curious person, those are some of the major things that you have to have in order to be an entrepreneur. There's no one that's on your back telling you got to record this podcast. There's no one holding you accountable to that. You do it because that's your business. But if you feel like you need to do that stuff and have someone there poking you all along, then entrepreneurship's not going to be for you.
Well, that was good.
So
do you need to ask her anything?
Well, I do. So how many? Okay, I'm gonna use a general question. How many women and men do you think go into businesses that are not ready? Because based on what you just said, I'm sure there's a lot of people that went into businesses that not necessarily ready to go into business. So what do you think that?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really great question. And if I had to quantify that, like a percent of people who I thought were true entrepreneurs, meaning mentally ready, had the acumen, had a good idea, of all the people that I've encountered, I would say it's around 20%.
That's pretty low.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And so what I want you to do now, Luana, first, I want to thank you so much for joining us. But you are an entrepreneur. You left a corporate job. Can you tell the listeners exactly what you do and how they can?
Yeah, for sure. So I am a business consultant, and I work with entrepreneurs through my company, Whitmore Consulting. And I'm also launching Next Fem Financial in December 1st. And that is the organization that helps women entrepreneurs get their personal finances in order so they can have stronger businesses. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to nextfemfinancial.com. We've got a quiz, a free 10-question quiz for women entrepreneurs to understand where they are today financially. And obviously, if you take that quiz, you get on the list, and I'll be sending out promo codes and all kinds of stuff for people to join the organization. And I am the only Lawana Whitmore on the planet. So if you put my name into Google, every result will be me. So you connect with me on LinkedIn, and find me online for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms.
Thank
Lawana.
you. Thank you. Yeah.
Today, because this was really a great conversation. You shared a lot of great information. I mean, I was kind of shocked at some of the information, but it was good. Absolutely great. So
I'm nothing if not a straight shooter, so.
We love it and we need it. That's what we need more of, straight shooters. So I'm sure this information is going to be valuable. And thank you again for joining us.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
All right.